Welcome. This video is part 3 of a 3-part series for high school counselors and administrators to show you how to use the reports function in DualEnroll.com. Part 1 looked at the application side. Part 2 is registration. And part 3 is for reports available in DualEnroll to manage both of those functions. So you can log in to DualEnroll at ivtech.dualenroll.com. As a high school counselor, you have a reports menu at the top of your page. There's a couple reports on here that can come in handy to manage student applications and registration, so we'll briefly look at each of those reports. There's several on here that you can look at and play around with, but we'll highlight just a couple today. The first is the registrations with status abbreviated report. Make sure you're always using the second option and not this first one with the with per term in parentheses. That's an old report. That's not quite as helpful. But the registrations with status report will allow you to pull all the registrations that are currently in process for your students. So you can pick a particular term if you'd like to, or if you choose all active terms, it's going to include everything with the asterisk next to it right now. So these are our current active terms. This first option is just going to pull all of those terms together into a report for you. So this is a download. It should be fairly quick these days. DualEnroll has streamlined these reports for us. And we'll expand these just a little bit so we could see what's going on. So it has our DualEnroll identifier, not super helpful, but it does have their student C number, which is really helpful to have handy here. First name and last name, the email that the student used to set up their DualEnroll account, which can come in handy, as their high school, and it also has the taught at high school. So this would include any career center classes the student is taking. So this is the one that Career Center counselors can find handy to be able to filter down to Career Center classes in particular. So it's that taught at high school column, which is column C on this report. Includes the courses that the student is taking. The course section number is the course reference number for Ivy Tech. Also includes the instructor information. It will include the term that the class is being registered in, and it will include the current step. So it'll tell you exactly where the student is in process, if they've completed registration, if they're still waiting on a knowledge assessment, any of those other steps that we reviewed in the last registration video, that will show in this report so you know exactly where students are in process. Variety of other information here, the registration started date, the date of the last update for the current step, so that can help track things through the registration process. Next video or the next report, excuse me, that can be helpful on this page is the unduplicated students with application fields. This is really helpful for tracking student applications. You could put in a created date. So if you only want to see things between a certain date range, you can drop that in. If you leave that date range open, it's going to give you all students in your high school for all time. So this is helpful to see where students are tracking in the application process. It will also give you all of their information that they used on the application, so you could spot check as you need to. So you can see the application created date. This is when they started their application in DualEnroll. You can also see the application completed date. So if they started it one day and then came back later, you could see that reflected here. And that's really helpful when it comes, if you scroll over, you can see it includes their name, high school. It will include their cell phone, their email, and their login. So if you have a student that's not sure if they already have a DualEnroll account, so it's a really helpful report to run at the beginning of the year, and you have everybody's login information available right here. So you don't have their password, but you do have the cell phone or email that they use to set up the account, their login name, so you could provide that information to the student to help them get back into their account. It does include their birth date. Social Security number is just blanked out here, but this does let you know in some cases, if an application is hung up, it may be because a student hasn't entered their Social Security number yet. So if this field is blank, you know that that might be at play. It includes their Ivy Tech student C number. So you see that here. In this case, we have a student with a blank C number field, but the Social Security number is there, and it tells us that the application is completed. So that could be a flag for you that there might be something going on with that student's application that we need to look into. So that's one helpful way just to see if there's anything hanging up in the process. Variety of other information available here. The other helpful piece of information is the high school grad date. So this is the date that the student reports they are due to graduate, but that could be helpful to filter down based on class if you need to use that information. So helpful way to just grab student information at a glance, especially that login information to help students get back into their account at the beginning of the semester. Next report we'll look at along the way here is the student roster by high school. So there's a couple reports. The completed registrations and the student roster by high school will both show you students with completed registrations in DualEnroll, but this one's helpful because it groups those registrations based on the class. So it can provide a nice roster that you can compare with the rosters that your instructors have to make sure that all of their students have been registered for the class. So we'll expand things here and take a look. Similarly, does have their C number here in column C, first name and last name, the email that they used to log in. So some of that information is also available here. You can see the high school. It's going to give you the course number. And like I described, this is grouped by the course itself and the individual sections of that course. So this is a really helpful way. You can grab this and filter it if you need to. And then you could send out lists to your instructors, filter down by either the course reference number or the course name. I believe you can filter here by the instructor as well. So it has the instructor name. If you want to filter in by your instructor and then send reports out to your individual instructors, and then they could confirm and double check that all the students that are in their class that are on their roster have actually made it into DualEnroll. So that's the high school, the student roster by high school report, which is a helpful way to, at a glance, make sure that you've gotten all your students. Last report that's in here that can be helpful is the student assessment report. So this is going to show you as a counselor the assessments that students have on file in DualEnroll. So that doesn't mean it's a complete list of all the assessments that are available in our banner system. There is a report that your local Ivy Tech staff can run for you called the Student Candidate Report. That comes directly out of our system, and it includes any information that is in our system as far as test scores. But this report will show you at least any test scores that are available in DualEnroll for the student, so you can verify if that student indeed is going to meet the prerequisite. So student number is here as well, student name and information, and then the assessment is here. The assessment score title and the assessment score value, along with the date that it was administered. So you can see at a glance what assessments students have available already in DualEnroll to be able to register for classes. Our GPA waiver these days has a different name, but this is how it's showing up on this report. So this name may be different, but the GPA waiver will always have the quad 8 assessment score. So if you see the 4 8s in a score, that means that the student qualified for the GPA waiver. So you see that in this report as well. In addition to the PSAT, SAT, the knowledge assessment will show up here as well. So that's a nice quick at-a-glance report that can allow you to pull student assessment scores as well. So that's a quick overview of some of the reports available in DualEnroll to hopefully help you manage student applications and registrations.